So
En
one more
Islandia.
thing to add, Sir Antonio, there is always a question, and that's why you mentioned Powers of Darkness, a fourth bride, a fourth bride of Dracula. And J.D. Barker and I decided to raise this question. If this was Ellen Crone, it would make sense that she wants to get away from the
Ah,
Count. And if she tries to get away, she's immortal. She can get younger, she can get older, she can travel a far way away. But he still has control and has power, and he's going to try to get her back. So this is the plot, really, of the story. Once you begin to understand, if Ellen Crone is supernatural, who is she? And why does Dracula have some control over her? What is she trying to do? Why is she helping the Stoker family?
sí me gustaría preguntarle, antes de darte paso, Mar, al señor Stoker, si después de toda la información, todo el manejo de recepción de mensajes, de formaciones, de dinámicas que ha tenido a la hora de la divulgación de esta saga, podríamos especular de que el tema de los vampiros podría ser una sociedad que esté estipulada a nivel europeo, a nivel americano, una sociedad dentro de lo que es la sociedad. Es decir, personas que tienen una cultura, plantémosle vampiro paranormal, o personas que se dedican a tener una cultura basada en la sangre. Yo, por ejemplo, he recibido informaciones de, atentos a lo que os voy a decir, queridos amigos, esto yo nunca lo digo en el programa, pero yo he recibido alguna información de personas que han llamado a la radio diciendo soy un vampiro, ¿vale? Soy un vampiro y tengo a esta persona que está en busca y captura, pues perdona, que está en búsqueda, no en busca y captura, que está en busca, que está, bueno, hay una serie de atestados en la policía con una persona con tal DNI, le tengo aquí y bueno, pues me alimento de él de esta manera. Cuando lo mato, lo dejo en donde sea y cojo a otra persona. Entonces se hace una nueva gestión policial en busca de esa persona y así sucesivamente. Y es una persona que plantea que hay una sociedad dentro de las propias sociedades normales que conocemos, pero con esa cultura, que puede ser algo psicosomático, algo psicológico, algo de un asesino, pero ¿se puede plantear esto como una cultura, como una sociedad? Sí me gustaría plantearle esto a Raquel, al señor Stoker, o algo como una historia con más o menos información, algo empírico, algo real, pero algo social,
Yeah.
estamos hablando de algo mundial, algo global.
Are you asking if I know this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've met some people like do this. I mentioned earlier New Orleans. There is a
what,
culture there of people that really practice voluntarily taking blood from other people, and it's not secret, but they keep private because they think people will make a lot of fun of them. But it to me, it's a group of people that feel that modern science has not been able to, and as is modern medicine, to help them get strong and healthy. And the only thing that will be sharing a small amount of blood in a ritual with somebody who they choose to do something voluntarily.
Okay.
So what they will do is go into a room and maybe light some candles. They will clean off their shoulder with alcohol and
Yeah.
have a little blade and cut, and then drink from here. Not drink from the neck where they'll have arterial blood and they could die, but vein,
In which part? But where
shoulder.
in which country? Country?
en Nueva Orleans.
New Orleans. Yeah,
Claro, claro.
and there's places in Los Angeles I know of as well. And there's more, but these are just two that I know of. And it's very respectful. It's very private. And yeah, lots of people that will dress up and they'll have fangs on and they'll party. But those are people that like the lifestyle, but not really the ones that do the blood exchange. So both of these will exist, as there's same with people who will put on costumes for Dracula at Halloween and Day of the Dead, you know. But this is a, you know, in a situation where we are strictly observing blood exchange. This does exist, and you know, I know of people that do this. I don't do it myself, but I'm aware of it, and I think, hey, if you're happy with this and you're not bothering anybody, yeah, that's okay. Do what you want.
Se la hago directa.
Dale al inglés vosotros, si habláis.
Okay. The one last question that I have for you, Mr. Stoker, is if you could explain a little bit, because I listened
Luego
to
nos
this
dices qué estás diciendo.
Sí. I listened to this on an interview that you had on one of your books that you read. Please explain us that Dracula was one of the 12 disciples of the devil in a mountain in Transylvania or something like that. I was very interested about that, but I don't remember very well.
Okay, so this is one of the big mysteries surrounding the novel Dracula. How did Bram Stoker's Count Dracula become a vampire? So we take this, I will answer this question in just a minute, but yeah. I find it interesting that there are so many opinions and movies that bring in their own folklore and stories. For instance, there's a good movie called Dracula Untold with Luke Evans. It's all about this warrior, Vlad Dracula, who goes to a cave and climbs up a mountain, and he has an incredible blood exchange with this old man, the devil, and he gets power. This is actually quite similar. I don't know the screenwriters from this movie, but you have to read the novel Dracula very closely, because there is one place where Van Helsing tells the band of heroes who this Dracula must have been. He learnt his powers in the Cholomonts, in the hills high over Lake Hermannstadt, in the school of the dark arts, where the devil keeps the 10th pupil as his disciple. So, digging into where did this information come into Bram from the Cholomonts, it was Emily Gerard, a Scottish lady who lived in Transilvania and did all of her research and looking into superstition, and found that people believed in the mountains over Lake Hermannstadt there was this mythical school of the dark arts where the devil was the professor, and he taught people the dark arts. And Dracula was the one student who the devil kept. Now, this was in a volcanic region of Transylvania. I have found in Bram's notes lines of longitude and latitude of a map that points to a very specific volcanic mountain where he set the story very close to the real Borgo Pass. So what I believe Bram Stoker did, like he did for the rest of the novel, was combine superstition and existing folklore, put it together, added the place to a volcano. Back in the days, the volcano was the portal to hell, the home of the devil. This is what people believed, and it was now backed up by the superstition. So this is how Bram Stoker, through Van Helsing, explains how Count Dracula becomes a vampire, thanks to Emily Gerard, the Scottish writer, and the real Transylvanian superstition.
Me parece alucinante. Es lo que te digo. O sea, es lo que te digo. O sea, vamos a ver, mal pensemos. Unas coordenadas en un documento. ¿Por qué esas coordenadas? Si no te van a ningún sitio. Pero si aparecen será por algo, ¿no? Porque te lleven a algún sitio. Digo yo, no sé. Elucubro, ¿eh? No lo sé. Emar, última pregunta para el señor Stoker.
Well, I want to
¿Qué?
finish this just like we started. This is my last question, one of the amount that I have. Have you had any conversation with fans or followers that have you changed the way you see Bram Stoker's work? I mean, something that you haven't seen and a fan or reader made you realize.
No, that's a great question because not only did he write Dracula, he wrote 12 books and many short stories. And reading books is a personal experience, right? And people understand things differently by reading them. And I'm amazed all the time when I travel around the world and I go to festivals, literary film, and see people and they say, oh, this book that Bram Stoker wrote, this means so much to me. I read it, every 2 years, I find something special. Or I've read his other book and I've read this one. And this story connects with this one. To me, these things are connected. So the thing that's, I guess, surprises me the most is how many people are really affected by his writing and look into it and find these interesting connections. And one of the connections I just wanted to end this with is the one we were talking about at the very beginning, and that is Bram Stoker's interest that through talking to other people and a guy by the name of John Moore in Ireland, who was a collector, he gave me an article written in Scotland in 1931. Bram had died a long time ago. He died in 1912. And this guy wrote an article that he said, I was at a social event where Bram Stoker was there, and I listened to him talk by the fireplace as he drank his scotch and had his cigar. And he told me about 2 situations where he believed in a story of second sight, premonition, this ability to see the future. And it told of a young lady who had a baby in arms and a 5-year-old child. And the 5-year-old child said, oh, she won't play with me. And the mother said, of course she'll play with you. She says, no, she's going to die. And the mother said, no, she's very healthy. What do you mean? Oh, she's going to die. And then the next day, the little girl came in and said, oh, the baby, she won't play. She's going to die. No, she's fine. She's fine. One day later, she found the baby dead. No explanation whatsoever. No disease, no sickness. And yet the 5-year-old sister, you don't think a 5-year-old sister would make up that her baby sister is going to die. And then a very similar story about the Earl of Errol. Bram Stoker was off doing shooting birds, pheasant. And the man that was the loader of the guns, he was handing Bram his gun. And Bram said politely, oh, how is the Earl these days? The sheet is high. Now, a sheet is like a bed sheet. You pull a sheet over a dead person's head when they die. The sheet is getting high, which is a way of saying he's going to die soon. Bram said, oh, he looks very healthy. He says, trust me. So they had a wonderful shooting. They had good food. Nothing happened to the Earl. Bram came back the next year, a whole another year later. Every summer he'd go to Scotland. And he said, I'd like to have the same loader. They went shooting again. And he said, you see, you were wrong. The Earl is looking fine. Oh, no, the sheet is getting higher. He goes, what? He looks very healthy. 3 days later, the Earl died unexpectedly of a brain aneurysm. So this is, to me, something that I now understand about Bram Stoker. He believes. He was not just reporting in this. He was believing in something called second sight. So I end with this because I've learned many things about Bram Stoker from my reading, but I learned a lot by also talking to other people who I believe are telling the truth. They're not just trying to sell a book and make a fancy story, but they really have insight and they've done their research. So research 2 or 3 different locations, you bring it together, and you can come up with a good theory. So here we go.
Habla de esta sensibilidad que tienen ciertas personas de ver el futuro, entre comillas, de presentir ciertas cosas, ¿no? El tercer ojo, sexto sentido.
Dentro de las terapias complementarias, las personas que conocen un poco el tema saben que hay algunas técnicas que lo que hacen es ahondar en los lazos, en las cuerdas, ¿no? En las cuerdas, los famosos hilos de plata que luego eso también, bueno, pues se desvirtuó. Pero hay personas que tienen la capacidad de ver cuando lo que es la energía de la muerte se está acercando a la aura de una persona y cuando esa energía se implementa con esa persona, automáticamente desencarna. Entonces, claro, eso es a través de técnicas de terapias complementarias. A lo mejor el señor Stoker se plantea esta información sin hablar de terapias complementarias, pero claro, como es un todo, al final estamos hablando de algo general desde la visión de la terapia complementaria, desde la visión de la persona que tiene sensibilidad, vete a saber. Pero al final es un todo.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate Antonio putting this together. The wonderful questions from all 3 of you. And Raquel, I don't know how you do this translating the way you do, but it was thank you very much to all of you. I appreciate your interest in me and my famous relative Bram Stoker and his legacy. Thank you.
Thank you. It was really great.
Gracias a todos.